I agree that one of the most significant harms of religion has to do with, we talked about how the Bible was used to justify the African slave trade, how it's been used to subjugate women, and further discrimination against, an actual harm against the LGBTQ community. I've talked about that. Now, of course, without fail, I'll get some, more progressive Christians or more modern Christians hopping into the chat and saying that wasn't all Christians. Some Christians were abolitionists, or some Christians, allow women to be pastors or whatever. And to that I say, okay, well, it's the minority. I'm sorry, it's the minority, okay? It is the minority, like a very insignificant minority. I mean, it's significant in the way, like, thank you for standing up for what's right, but they were very much the smaller group when it comes to Christians standing up for what's right, time and time again, all the way back to, all of the religious drama in Europe that was so violent and sect-specific violence, right? Like, I'm not interested in that as a justification for Christianity as a whole being progressive or actually about peace or justice or truth as it's supposed to be, okay? Now, on the other hand, I very much always also say that, guess what? Also, the secular, scientific, rationalism-based community also used science, pseudoscience, really, to also subjugate women and further the African slave trade. Like, the majority of the scientific, the Western white scientific community, these actual authorities in that field, were publishing quote unquote legitimate, which has now been debunked, studies about how women are inferior or the Africans were inferior, etc. So really what that boils down to is it has nothing to do with a belief in God at all. It's essentially people who suck. Now, I would argue that in large part, again, rationalism and reason and the scientific, revolution and enlightenment all brought about more significant humanist advancements and more significant, appreciations for diversity, support for wider groups of people than just specific believers, etc. So I do think on the whole, religion is more harmful than, like, obviously the scientific community. But I do think all of those nuances are important when we're talking about this. Now, the other thing I wanted to throw out there is one of the reasons I have said before that I have said I'm not an anti-theist is actually the word theist to me is a person who believes in God. Whenever I heard, like, I'm an anti-theist, to me that sounds like, oh, so you're anti-people who believe in God? And to me, I will always push back against, being anti any individual or group of people or whatever, except for Jordan Peterson. And so that's one of the things where I was like, okay, I'm not gonna call myself an anti-theist because I want to make room for theists in the work that I do. Chatter, who said, are you aware that most crimes in history are done by secular people like you, not religious people? You've got me fucked up. That's an insane take. You're joking. You know what's funny is a lot of the most significant violence done in this world, what you would maybe consider a crime, has actually not technically been a crime because it was done by the state, by governments, by militaries. And all of those throughout human history, don't give me the exceptions, I'm talking 95% have been religious in nature. That is an insane take. That is just wrong. I'm sorry for whoever has manipulated you into thinking that you need religion to be a moral person, but it is so wrong. I'm not interested in that take at all. I am not interested in the argument that, first of all, that religious morality is in any way, shape, or form better or more moral than secular morality, because religious morality has resulted in so much actual violence. You've got me fucked up. That's insane. That's an insane take. I'm not trying to belittle you, Chatter, but that is just bullshit. Like, I agree that being an anti-theist in this. Well, first of all, I do agree that the word atheism the word anti-theism sounds a lot better, and I think I resonate with it more than anti-theist, because again, the first time I heard anti-theist, I was like, no, I'm not against the people who are theists, right? When in reality, it's really just an anti or a negative approach to the belief or the religion itself, which I would say I am. The take on like why one is an anti-theist in the sense that they're, anti the religious belief, not the actual adherent or the individual. The take on being an anti-theist for the sake of matching reality, to me, is a secondary priority, right? I think that's a great way to arrive at this point in someone's deconstruction or deconversion journey. I think that, myth busting of the quote unquote infallibility of the Bible or the inerrancy of the Bible, recognizing that it is all a fairy tale, it is all mythology. I think those are really good starting points to get to this point of being an anti-theist and recognizing the actual fact that more harm is done by religion than good. Where I would kind of push a little bit further than just the fact that it's not matching reality, to me, that is secondary to how the beliefs or lack thereof is actually manifesting in the world we live in, right? Someone chatted, and this is actually goes hand in hand with what I'm talking about. I'm not convinced that getting rid of all religion would be right or necessary, but there is a lot of harm done by religion. Also, I'd sooner get rid of capitalism than religion. And that's essentially where I'm at with this. Now, I would kind of go a little bit further than that specific chat and say that I think they go hand in hand. Like, I think all hierarchies are so intertwined and entangled that all of them need to be dismantled. So for those of you who are new, I always mention capitalism, organized religion, white supremacy, and patriarchy here in the United States. Those are the four main hierarchies that are so intertwined, so entangled. And then of course I'm gonna get chatters being like, well, you can have Black American Christians, or you can have atheist conservatives, or you can have all of these different kinds of combinations. And I'm totally aware that not everyone has a recognition of all four of those hierarchies. I totally get that you can be a Christian anti-capitalist and all of these different combinations. Like, you don't have to tell me. I understand the concept. But my point is, at the end of the day, I'm going to be aligning myself with the actual manifestations, the material results of what the conversation is leading to, what the belief system is leading to. So in that sense, I think that religion is causing just as much harm as capitalism, in the sense that it's keeping people disempowered from using their own critical thinking and sense of morality to push against capitalism. Does that make sense? So it's like, yeah, it's all kind of intertwined here. It's all kind of entangled. It's all the same conversation. That's why I talk about both politics and religion, okay? I guess in the sense, if it requires, taking the stance of anti-theism or atheism from a point of being accurate about reality and not believing in fairy tales or mythology anymore, if that's what it takes for people to start to see the harm that religion has done, in that sense, like, yeah, maybe that is a good starting point for so many people. Does that make sense? But again, where I actually land at the end of all of that is, I don't care what someone believes if they're standing up for what's right, right? So I said this before, and let me be crystal fucking clear once again. I am an atheist, but I would choose to stand in solidarity with a Christian who is pro-Palestine than an atheist who is not. Because as much as I think that religion does more harm than good, I don't care what you believe. I care whether or not you're standing up for what's right. And at the end of the day, that's really what it boils down to. How many times have we come across like atheists in this live stream, in this chat, who are anti-LGBTQ, who are pro-Palestine, right? Like, it's so anti-Palestine, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, I will push back against that. I get on to atheists all of the time. It's not like when you stop believing in God and become an atheist, you're automatically this more moral person. However, it does leave more room for you to take moral and appropriate stances and use your critical thinking than religion does. At the end of the day, people are people. Okay, at the end of the day, people are people. On a much, vastly wider scale, religion does more harm than good. Religion does more harm than non-religion. Does that make sense? So I will continue pushing back against religion and capitalism and white supremacy and patriarchy because it's all the same. It's not all the same, but you know what I mean. It's all intertwined.